everybody. Welcome to Keys to the Kingdom. I'm Marissa. I hope you're all having a wonderful week. Sorry about being a little bit late, but I'm always trying to figure out the technical side of my system here, and sometimes it takes me a while. So glad you could be here today on Tuesday. We don't normally do our videos on Tuesday, but I had to because I had family in over the weekend, and we are going to probably start doing more videos on Tuesday, but also on Shabbat. So don't think that we're not going to be doing videos on Shabbat. Hello, Ruth. Glad you could make it. Good to see you. Okay, so let me just get everything together here while everybody's joining. Hopefully we can have some people on today live, because this is going to be a great Bible section that we're reading today. It has to do with what happens after the first Passover, because that was our last video in Bible reading. We studied and read the about the first Passover last Shabbat, and today we're going to be seeing what happens right after that, and the giving of the Ten Commandments. That's kind of a big deal when Yahuwah, the God of gods and the Lord of lords, the King of kings, gave the Ten Commandments on Mount Sinai. That was a big deal, and he showed himself to the children of Israel and to Moses, was speaking to Moses. And I hope I'm not having any technical difficulties, so I'm going to let everybody come on before we start reading. And yeah, so as you can see behind me, we have the Ten Commandments, since that's what we're reading about today. If anybody's interested, let me know. I was able to get a hold of a charm that has the Ten Commandments written in Hebrew on it. It's a charm that it's made out of a silver alloy, so it's not sterling silver. Otherwise, it would be a lot more expensive. But if anybody's interested in one of these, it's the Ten Commandments written in Hebrew in a silver alloy. They're $20, so I can take pre-orders. If you're interested, just private message me, and I can order one for you. It might take a few weeks for me to get all the orders together, because I wanna order them all at once, so that I'm not doing multiple orders, and then I can get it shipped out to you. Let me know, just private message me, give me your information, and I will order one for you, and then I'll get it mailed out. But like I said, it'll take a few weeks, because I'm going to be gathering all the orders at once, so that I can order everything at once and then mail out everything at once. It just makes it a lot easier. But like I said, it's written in Hebrew. I know you can probably not see it very well because of my green screen. But it's the Ten Commandments written in Hebrew, and I just thought that would probably be fitting for today's video discussion. Good morning, Christine. So glad to see you. Long time no see. Okay, if you want one, yes, just let me know. Let me just do me a favor and just private message me your addresses, and then I'll have to send you the PayPal link. They're $20 for the charm, and that includes the shipping. So send me your information in private message, and I'll get them ordered. And I will actually, while everybody's joining, let me just see here if I can get let's see. Let me see if I have your information in messaging already. I may or may not. So let me see. Yes, so glad you could make it. We're probably going to be doing videos on Shabbat and on Tuesday, because I plan on starting another video discussion study other than our Bible reading. So we're doing our Bible readings because it's important for us to read through the whole Bible. And I know most people have not read the entire Bible. So we're definitely going to stick with reading the entire Bible. However, I just posted a sort of a post today that I tried to do a poll, but apparently you can't do a poll on a business page. But I was just asking everybody if you would rather do a separate study on the Book of Jubilees, which I think is very important, or I was also going to do a Tending to Your Temple biblical health study, sort of a biblical health series. Let me know which ones you are interested in. Would you rather do a study on the Book of Jubilees, or would you rather do a study on Tending to Your Temple, a biblical health series? I'm curious which one you would rather do first. We will do both eventually. I'm just curious what everybody's interested in doing first. So let's see here. Let me see if I can. Okay, let's see if I can send this to everybody. Bear with me, I'm just trying to, dang, both. Hi Les, so glad you could make it, sweetie. Good morning, yes, God bless you. Yeah, that's sort of tough one. I'll have to get some more votes on that to see which one we want to do first. Jubilees, yeah, Jubilees, I really love Jubilees. I think that's important too. Here's the link. We might do Jubilees first, only because Jubilees pertains to a lot of the things that are in the timeline of where we're reading in the Bible, and they kind of overlap. So it might be better to do Jubilees now, so we're sort of on the same page and we're kind of paralleling what we're reading in the Bible to what's in the Book of Jubilees. So that might be a good idea. Okay. Again, if anybody who's watching is interested, I am taking orders for the 10 Commandments charm. I hope you can, I know it's probably hard to see, but this is a 10 Commandments charm that is written in Hebrew. It's a silver alloy. It's not sterling silver. Otherwise, it would cost a lot more, but they're $20. And that includes the shipping. So let me know if you're interested in these. I just thought it was fitting since we were doing the 10 Commandments today. And I wear this often, and it's fun. Let me see here. I just want to make sure I get this to everybody. Bear with me 1 second. And we're also going to be, I'm going to attempt to start putting the section that we're reading on the screen so that we can all read along instead of me just, reading out of my Bible. I should have been doing this from the get-go, but I'm sort of learning this technical system that I'm using for the videos, and so sometimes it takes me a while to get used to it. But let me go ahead and send you the links so that you can order the charm. I don't know why I have so much problem with this. Has anyone ever read the book? Okay, Crystal said the Book of Jubilees. Okay, Jubilee. Okay, so we might do that. And I think that's actually probably a good idea, only because, like I said, we're in the process of reading sort of like the overlapping timeline of where Jubilees is referring to. So a lot of that is sort of where we're basically in the area of where we are in our Bible reading. So it might be best if we do the book of Jubilee now, just because we're in that timeline, and it will make more sense if we are sort of reading them in conjunction with each other and seeing the parallel between the Bible passages that we're reading and what's in the book of Jubilees. Okay. All right, so we might do that. We might do the Book of Jubilees. That's probably a good idea. All right, so before we get started reading, I've already, I think I've gone over everything I needed to discuss, I believe. Like I said, we're going to start, we'll probably do our Bible reading on Shabbat and the Jubilees study on Tuesday. That's the plan. If I need to switch things around, I'll let you know. But God's willing, that's what will happen. But I hope you have your Bibles ready. I'm going to be reading from the Complete Jewish Bible. And I'm actually going to put the Bible section up on the screen so that you can read along with me. It's probably just going to make it a lot easier for you to follow along unless you have your Bible with you. So I'm just going to go ahead and share the screen so that we can start reading together. But yeah, I think Jubilees is probably a good idea. All right, so we're actually in chapter 16 through 20 today. Like I said, this is what happens right after the first Passover, and leading us into the giving of the Ten Commandments. And just remember, there is the parallel, and we talked about this last Shabbat, between the Passover, what happened during Passover, and what happened during the crucifixion of Messiah. So we have the Passover, and then we have the Passover lamb. We have the unleavened bread, and we celebrate unleavened bread. Yahusha, whatever you are calling him these days. A lot of people are just saying Yahusha because a lot of information is coming out so much quicker than ever. Probably because we're getting so close to the end. So, people used to say Yahweh, now it's Yahuwah. I don't want to get people confused in logistics, but it makes more sense using Yahuwah and Yahusha because of the names that were given to people. It makes a lot more sense that those names were actually the ones that were used. But he was our unleavened bread. He was without sin. So we celebrate Passover, the Pesach with the lamb, unleavened bread, first fruits. This is when Yahusha was risen, when he rose from the tomb. He was the first fruit among men. And then, of course, we count 50 days from Passover to Pentecost, or what we call Shavuot. And Shavuot was when the Ten Commandments were given. Okay, so it was 50 days after Pesach, after Passover, that the Ten Commandments were given at Mount Sinai. And then fast forward to the days of the Messiah, it was 50 days after Passover and his crucifixion that the Holy Spirit was poured out. So the giving of the Ten Commandments is Shavuot, and then also the pouring out of the Holy Spirit during Pentecost is also considered Shavuot as well. Okay, so there is those parallels of what happened in the past, what happened in the future, and what is going to happen again in the future. And so we're reading about the Ten Commandments today. Let's go ahead and start in chapter 16 of Exodus. Okay, and I hope you can hear me. If for some reason you can't hear me, just let me know. All right? So, chapter 16 in Exodus, let's go ahead and begin with verse 1. So they traveled from Elim, and the whole community of the people of Israel arrived at the Sinai desert, between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after leaving the land of Egypt. There in the desert, the whole community of the people of Israel grumbled against Moshe and Aaron. The people of Israel said to them, did you say just an echo? Okay, hold on. Let me see here. Okay, that should be better. Is that better? You shouldn't hear an echo now. Let me know if you still hear an echo, but it should be a lot better now. Hopefully. Just let me know, Ruth, if you still hear an echo. Okay, so there in the desert, the whole community of the people of Israel grumbled against Moshe and Aaron. The people of Israel said to them, we wish the Lord Yahuwah, and I'm going to replace Adonai, which means Lord, with his actual name because I feel like it's fitting that we do so. Very clear. Okay, great. Awesome. We wish Yahuwah had used his own hand to kill us off in Egypt. There we used to sit around the pots with the meat boiling, and we had as much food as we wanted. But you have taken us out to this desert to let this whole assembly starve to death. Okay, so I'm just going to pause for a moment and point out that the children of Israel had just experienced 10 miraculous plagues. Not to mention, they just did the first Passover where the Lord brought them out, okay, and killed all the firstborn, and they were kept safe. As if that weren't enough. You know, during Passover, we sing a song, it's called Dayenu. I don't know if any of you have heard of the song Dayenu, sung during Passover, but basically the song goes, Dayenu, 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 Dayenu. So, and when you're singing the song, you're basically saying, the Lord did the 10 plagues, but that would have been enough. If the Lord had just done the 10 plagues, and I'm just summarizing here. If the Lord had just done the 10 plagues, that would have been enough. Dayenu means that would have been enough. If the Lord had just had us keep the Pesach, the Passover, that would have been enough. If the Lord had just parted the Red Sea, that would have been enough. And we're trying to remind ourselves that those things that God did were so miraculous that that should have been enough. But even then, after the 10 plagues, after the first Passover, you know, God killed all the firstborn except for those who had the blood of the lamb on their doorposts. And he brought them to the Sea of Suf and parted the Red Sea, brought them through on dry ground. You think that that would have been enough. But no, it was still not enough for these people. These people had so much of Egypt ingrained in them that it was very, 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 very hard for God. You know, you can take a people out of Egypt, but it's a whole other thing to take the Egypt out of the people. Does that make sense? I mean, we can relate to that as well. It's very easy for God to bring us out of the world, but then God has to take the world out of us. And that's a whole other sanctifying process. So it's one thing to be saved, and it's a whole other thing for God to sanctify us. And the sanctifying process is a lifelong process of God taking the world out of us, because we were saved from the world, right? But that's just the beginning. When you get saved, that is just the beginning. And the whole lifelong process of being sanctified is what we do every single year as we're keeping these holy feast days that were commanded by Yahuwah. So here we have the children of Israel immediately. Now, this is just the 15th day since they came out of Egypt. And they're already saying it would have been better for us to have been in, it would have been better for us had we been in Egypt than for us to starve to death. Because they still haven't learned to trust Yahuwah. They have not learned to depend on him for everything. They have been so dependent in their slavery, because even though they were enslaved, they were provided for. And by the way, when you depend on the government for your sustenance, when you constantly ask the government to give you everything that you need, you are putting yourself in bondage. Okay? This is happening here in America today. We want the government to take care of us. We want the government to provide for us. We want the government to keep us safe. We want the government to pay for everything. And we want everything to be free. Oh, that sounds so wonderful. That sounds so great. Basically, that's socialism. That's communism. That's you saying, I don't want to depend on God. I don't want to be free and self-sufficient. I want the government to take care of me. And that's what Egypt did. They kept people enslaved, but they were provided for. They weren't starving. As you can see, the children of Israel go on to say, we had meat, we had all this wonderful food in Egypt, and you brought us out into the wilderness to starve to death? Christine said, yes, no, say no to modern day slavery from government. Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And don't let anybody trick you or anyone else that you know into thinking that the government giving you everything is okay. They are putting you into bondage, okay? More government equals slavery. There's nothing progressive or new about it. There's nothing new under the sun. It's the same thing. And the more you depend on the government, the more you are saying to God, I don't need you. I don't need you. And I'm afraid to depend on you. Okay? If you have a fear of being free and having freedom to be self-sufficient while you're depending on God for your sustenance, then you have a slave mentality. You have a slavery mentality, and this is what Yahuwah was trying to deprogram from the children of Israel. He was trying to deprogram them from their dependency on the government. That's basically what he was trying to do. Ruth says that's why people are lazy and do nothing with life. Yes, that's right. And it's very sad because you think you're getting what you need. And it sounds good to people who don't want to do anything, but unfortunately, you are literally going into a slave mentality and you are becoming a slave. Christine says, yep, even Canada is not what people think. We don't have the freedoms or good care people think we have, medical system and socialism propaganda. I understand. Yes, that's exactly right. People think, oh, we should have free health care. We should have free college. I mean, they're trying to get people to not have to pay for college. Let's just not pay for anything and have the government pay for everything. When you have the government pay for everything, you are trading your freedoms for those things. You have to give something up for the government to take care of you. And that is exactly what was going on in Egypt. Egypt and that's why a lot of people went down to Egypt. That's why a lot of the surrounding countries and peoples went down to Egypt, because Egypt promised to take care of them. That's why you'll see, as we read further on in our Bible, that Yahuwah tells Israel, do not go down to Egypt. Do not go down to Egypt and depend on them. Okay? Ruth, my parents never used the system, and that's why they're very successful and hardworking till this very day. And that's what's going on today with the masks, etc. It's a form of control. Yes, here in America and around the world, they are in the process of putting people back into slavery. And America used to say, this will never happen to us. We will never allow this. But we have been allowing this for some time, and it's been a slow acting cancer. I'm sorry, let me just shut this blind here. It's been a slow acting cancer that has been slowly feeding on us here in America and around the world for some time. This is literally the only country that still had true freedoms. If you don't know this, around the world, there is no freedom of speech. We think that the rest of the world still has freedoms, but even in England, places in Europe, you cannot say certain things. You'll be arrested. You do not have freedom of speech. England confiscated all the guns quite a while ago. People do not have guns, but guess what? People are still getting killed. They just use knives, or they have guns that are not legal. So there's nothing new under the sun. The same thing was happening in this time. And Egypt, that's why Egypt is always considered the world, or the world system. The world system is the only alternative to you depending on Yahuwah and being free. If you're free, that means that you do not have a fear of how you're going to eat, what you're going to wear. No, you know that God is going to take care of those needs. Christine, again, Canada too, freedom of speech is not a thing. It's so scary, you guys, and free speech is absolutely being taken away here in America. Instead of passing it through legislation, instead of it going through the legal system where they're, because nobody's going to overtly and obviously pass legislation that says you do not have freedom of speech. They're making it to where it's not socially acceptable. And they're starting on the college campuses. And so, but again, this ties into the difference between Egypt and the family unit and the country that Yahuwah was trying to create, where they were solely dependent upon him and they were truly free. And so we see here that the children of Israel are already wishing that they were back in Egypt. So let's continue reading here. Let's see what it says. Hold on one second here. Okay. So Yahuwah said to Moshe, "Here, I will cause bread to rain down from heaven for you. The people are to go out and gather a day's ration every day. By this I will test." So listen to this. By this, okay? By this I will test whether they observe my Torah or not. Okay? So he says they're to go out and gather a day's ration every day. They're to go out, The people are to go out and gather a day's ration every day. By this I will test whether they will observe my Torah or not. So God, Yahuwah, is trying to train them to trust him. Because what does the Torah say? In 6 days you are to labor and do all your work, and on the 7th day you are to rest. What else is he teaching them here? It says the people are to go out and to gather a day's ration every day. So you're only supposed to gather what you need for that day. On the 6th day, when they prepare what they have brought in, it will turn out to be twice as much. Okay, so do you see this here? He's training them in the Sabbath. On the 6th day, okay, on the 6th day, when they prepare what they have brought in, it will turn out to be twice as much as they gather on the other days. Why does it need to be twice as much? Because they're going to rest on the 7th day, and they're going to need enough food to last them for the 6th day and the 7th day. Moshe and Aaron said to all the people of Israel, "This evening you will realize that it has been Yahuwah who brought you out of Egypt. And in the morning you will see Yahuwah's glory. For he has listened to your grumblings against Yahuwah." He's like, I hear you. I hear what you're saying to me. What are we that you should grumble against us? Moshe added, "What I have said will happen when Yahuwah gives you meat to eat this evening and your fill of bread tomorrow morning. Yahuwah has listened to your complaints and grumblings against him. What are we? Your grumblings are not against us, but your grumblings are against Yahuwah." So just to pause for a second. So what Moses was telling the children of Israel is, you're not mad at me. Your grumbling and complaining is against Yahuwah, because he's the one that's providing for you. And Moses is this mediator with God, trying to tell them that I'm trying to get you to depend on God. You're not depending on me. So if you're upset with Yahuwah. You're not upset with Moses and Aaron. Okay? This is God trying to train the children of Israel to depend on him and him alone. Okay, let's look here. So Moshe said to Aaron, hold on. So Moshe said to Aaron, "Say to the whole community of Israel, come close to the presence of Yahuwah, for he has heard your grumblings." As Aaron spoke to the whole community of the people of Israel, they looked towards the desert, and there before them the glory of Yahuwah appeared in a cloud. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, "I have heard the grumblings of the people of Israel. Say to them, at dusk you will be eating meat, and in the morning you will have your fill of bread. Then you will realize that I am Yahuwah your God." That evening quails came up and covered the camp, while in the morning there was a layer of dew all around the camp. When the dew had evaporated, there on the surface of the desert was a fine flaky substance, as fine as frost on the ground. When the people of Israel saw it, they asked each other, "Man, who?" Meaning, what is this? Because they didn't know what it was. Moshe answered them, "It is the bread which Yahuwah has given to you to eat. Here is what Yahuwah has ordered. Each man is to gather according to his appetite. Each is to take an omer, or 2 quarts, per person for everyone in his tent." The people of Israel did this, and some gathered. Okay, so the people of Israel did this. Okay, but check this out. Okay, but some gathered more and some less. But when they put it in an omer measure, whoever had gathered much had no excess, and whoever gathered little had no shortage. Nevertheless, each person had gathered according to his appetite. Okay, let's just pause there for a second. Do you see how Yahuwah is very purposely showing that even those who gathered more didn't have excess, and those who gathered too little did not lack? that Yahuwah is training them, I will give you exactly what you need. Not too much and not too little. What does the Bible say? There's a prayer in the Bible where it says, Lord, do not give me too much that I might forget about you, and don't give me too little that I may steal and profane your name. You know, we don't want too much because then we might forget about God. And we don't want too little because then we might steal, rob, or covet our neighbor. God wants to give you exactly what you need. Exactly what your needs are, okay? And he will do that. And so he's training the children of Israel. You don't need too much. You don't need too little. I will give you exactly what you need. Okay? Okay, so Moshe told them no one is to leave any of it until morning. But they did not pay attention to Moshe. And some kept leftovers until the morning. It bred worms and rotted, which made Moshe angry at them. So they gathered it in the morning after morning, each person according to his appetite. But as the sun grew hot, it melted. Okay, let's pause right there because I want to say something. So, you weren't supposed to leave any of it until morning. In other words, if you had some left over, don't leave it until morning. This is what Moses told them to do. But they didn't pay attention to him, and they kept some leftovers until morning because it's a natural instinct to want to save for the next day, right? But what they saved to the next day bred worms and it rotted. You see, God is training them to depend solely on him and not to have too much and not to have too little. Basically, he's training them to be just like the sparrow who doesn't gather much for tomorrow. He just gathers what he needs for today. And this is what Yahuwah was trying to do with the children of Israel. Okay, let's continue. Okay, so on the 6th day, they gathered twice as much bread, 2 omers per person. Okay, so on the 6th day, you were to gather twice as much bread, 2 omers per person, and all the community leaders they gathered twice as much. And they gathered twice as much, 2 omers per person, and all the community leaders came and reported to Moshe. He told them, this is what Yahuwah has said. Tomorrow is a holy Shabbat for Yahuwah. Bake what you want to bake, boil what you want to boil, and whatever is left over, set aside and keep for the morning. They set it aside till morning, as Moses had ordered. And it did not rot or have worms. Moshe said, today eat that, because today is a Shabbat for Yahuwah. Today you won't find it in the field. Gather it 6 days, but the 7th day is the Shabbat. On that day there won't be any. However, on the 7th day, some of the people went out to gather and found none. So this is literally a miracle in and of itself. So every day that they were to gather on the 6 days, they were supposed to only gather one amount per person. Whatever was good enough for each person, 1 omer. But on the 6th day, they gathered twice as much. And on the 6th day, they carried it over, those leftovers, till the next day, and it did not rot. And it did not have worms. I mean, this is an absolute miracle, because any other day that they left the leftovers, it would rot and have worms. But on the holy Shabbat, God was showing them, my Shabbat is holy. My Shabbat is set apart. I will have double for you on the 6th day to tend to you on the seventh day when you are resting, just like me, and resting with me. Okay? And he says, on the seventh day, you're not even going to find the manna in the field. So some people didn't listen and they went out to gather anyway, but they couldn't find any manna. This was an absolute miracle, what was going on in the wilderness. For 6 days, there was manna. On the seventh day, there was no manna to even be found. Kelly says, no fear, but be faithful. Obedience is better than sacrifice. Amen, sister. You got that right. That is so true. Amen. Okay, so you see what he's doing here with the children of Israel. He's training them in the Shabbat. Okay, verse 28. And Yahuwah said to Moshe, how long will you refuse to observe my mitzvot and my teachings? Look, Yahuwah has given you the Shabbat. This is why he is providing bread for you for 2 days on the 6th day. Each of you stay where you are. No one is to leave his place on the 7th day. So the people rested on the 7th day. Verse 31. And the people called the food man. It was like coriander seed, and it was white, and it tasted like honey cakes. Moshe said, here is what Yahuwah has ordered. Let 2 quarts of manna be kept through all your generations, so that they will be able to see the bread which I fed you in the desert when I brought you out of Egypt. So they were gathering this manna, which was supposedly put into the Ark of the Covenant, to be a testimony that they will be able to see the bread which I fed you in the desert when you get into the land of Israel. Okay, and Moshe said to Aaron, take a jar and put in it 2 quarts of manna. Set it aside before Yahuwah to be kept through all your generations. So it was supposed to be a testimony to what God did in the wilderness. Just as Yahuwah ordered Moshe, Aaron set it aside before the testimony to be kept. The people of Israel ate manna for 40 years until they came to an inhabited land. They ate manna until they arrived at the borders of the land of Canaan. So they ate manna all the way until they came into the land. All right, let's go to Exodus 17. Chapter 17, verse 1. The whole community of the people of Israel left the Sin desert, traveling in stages as Yahuwah had ordered, and camped at Rephidim, but there was no water for the people to drink. So they're traveling, they're camping, and there's no water. The people quarreled with Moshe, demanding, give us water to drink. But Moshe replied, why do you pick a fight with me? Why are you testing Yahuwah? However, the people were thirsty for water there and grumbled against Moshe. For what did you bring us up from Egypt? To kill us, our children, and our livestock with thirst? Okay, let's pause there for a minute. So, once again, it's like trying to... That's why God... You'll notice that Yahuwah always calls adults the children of Israel, because they always tend to act like children. And they will always be his children. But we see here, they just tested him with food. And now when it comes to water, they're still not praying to Yahuwah. Yahuwah was looking for them to ask him. Just tell him. Pray to him for water. But instead they're grumbling for water. They're grumbling to Moshe. So they're depending on Moshe, and they're still not depending on Yahuwah for what they need. Okay? So they said, for what did you bring us up from Egypt? To kill us, our children, and our livestock with thirst? Moshe cried out to Yahuwah, which is what the people of Israel should have been doing. They should have been crying out to Yahuwah for the water. Moshe cried out to Yahuwah, What am I supposed to do? What am I to do with these people? They're ready to stone me. Yahuwah answered Moshe, go ahead of the people and bring with you the leaders of Israel. Take your staff in your hand and the one that you use to strike the river, and go. I will stand in front of you there on the rock in Horeb. You are to strike the rock, and water will come out of it, so the people can drink. Moshe did this in the sight of the leaders of Israel. The place was named Massa, meaning testing, and Merivah, meaning quarreling, because of the quarreling of the people of Israel, and because they tested Yahuwah by asking, is Yahuwah with us or not? Okay? So check this out. Now we see here, then Amalek came and fought with Israel at Rephidim. Okay, so notice here that they're quarreling for water, and now the Amalekites are coming to fight with them. Then Amalek came and fought with Israel at Rephidim. Moshe said to Yehoshua, which was Joshua, choose men for us, go out and fight with Amalek. Tomorrow I will stand on the top of the hill with God's staff in my hand. Yehoshua did as Moshe had told him and fought with Amalek. Then Moshe, Aaron, and Hur went up to the top of the hill. When Moshe raised his hand, Israel prevailed, but when he let his hand down, Amalek prevailed. However, Moshe's hands grew heavy, so they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it. Aaron and Hur held up his hands, the one on one side and the one on the other side, so that his hands stayed steady until sunset. Thus Yehoshua defeated Amalek, putting their people to the sword. Okay? So this is their first battle. And then verse 14 says, Yahuwah said to Moshe, write this in a book to be remembered, and tell it to Yehoshua. I will completely blot out any memory of Amalek from under heaven. Moshe built an altar, called it Yahuwah Nisi, which means Yahuwah is my banner or my miracle, and said, because their hand was against the throne of Yah, the Lord will fight Amalek generation after generation. So they were supposed to write this down, that Yahuwah was going to blot out the memory of the Amalekites. Okay? So we will actually see later on that Yahuwah keeps his promise, and he blots out the memory of the Amalekites, and the Amalekites will be annihilated completely, to where they are no longer in existence because of what they did. Okay? All right, let's continue in chapter 18 here. Okay, chapter 18, verse 1. Now Jethro, the priest of Midian, Moshe's father-in-law, because remember, Moshe had married a Midianite, which was Jethro's daughter, when he was living in the land of Midian. Moshe's father-in-law, and heard about all that God had done for Moshe and for Israel, his people. How Yahuwah had brought Israel out of Egypt. After Moshe had sent away his wife Zipporah and her 2 sons, Jethro, Moshe's father-in-law, had taken them back. The name of the one son was Gershom, for Moshe had said, I have been a foreigner in a foreign land. And the name of the other was Eliezer, which means my God helps, because the God of my father helped me by rescuing me from Pharaoh's sword. Jethro, Moshe's father-in-law, brought Moshe's sons and wife to him in the desert. So he had been apart from them, and now Jethro is bringing them to Moshe in the wilderness, where he was encamped at the mountain of God. So he's bringing them to Mount Sinai. He sent word to Moshe, saying, I, your father-in-law Jethro, am coming to you with your wife and her 2 sons. Moshe went out to meet his father-in-law, prostrated himself, and kissed him. Then after inquiring of each, so you see Moshe honors his father-in-law. Then after inquiring of each other's welfare, they entered the tent. Moshe told his father-in-law all that Yahuwah had done to Pharaoh and the Egyptians for Israel's sake, all the hardships they had suffered while traveling, and how Yahuwah had rescued them. Jethro rejoiced over all the good that Yahuwah had done for Israel by rescuing them from the Egyptians. Jethro said, Blessed be Yahuwah, who has rescued you from the Egyptians and from Pharaoh, who has rescued the people from the harsh hand of the Egyptians. Now I know that Yahuwah is greater than all the gods. So you see this here? This is a testament to Jethro and the Midianites, because remember, Jethro was a Midianite priest. So they were still worshiping other gods. And now Jethro is going to probably become a sort of missionary in the name of Yahuwah, because it says, Now I know that Yahuwah is greater than all other gods, because he rescued those who were treated so arrogantly. Jethro, Moshe's father-in-law, brought a burnt offering and sacrifices to God. And Aaron came with all the leaders of Israel to share the meal before God with Moses' father-in-law. Okay, so now this Midianite priest Jethro is sacrificing to the one true God. The following day, Moshe sat to settle disputes for the people, while the people stood around Moshe from morning until evening. So Moshe is basically being the judge for all the people. When Moshe's father-in-law saw all that he was doing to the people, he said, What is this that you are doing to the people? Why do you sit there alone with all the people standing around you from morning until evening? Moses answered his father-in-law, It's because the people came to me seeking God's guidance. Whenever they had a dispute, it comes to me, and I judge between one person and another, and I explain to them God's laws and teachings. But you see here, Jethro is going to give his son-in-law some really good advice. Chapter 17 says, Moshe's father-in-law said to him, What you are doing isn't good. You will certainly wear yourself out. It is not only yourself, and not only yourself, but these people here with you as well. It's too much for you. You can't do it all alone by yourself. So listen now to what I have to say. I will give you some good advice. I will give you some advice, and God will be with you. You should represent the people. You should represent the people before God, and you should bring their causes to God. You should also teach them the laws and the teachings and show them how to live their lives and what work they should do. But you should choose from among all the people competent men who are God-fearing, honest, and incorruptible to be their leaders in charge of thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. Normally, they will settle the people's disputes. They should bring to you the difficult cases. But ordinary matters they should decide amongst themselves. In this way, they will make it easier for you to share the load with you. If you do this, and God is directing you to do it, you will be able to endure, and all the people too will arrive at their destination peacefully. Moshe paid attention to his father-in-law's counsel and did everything he said. Moshe chose competent men from all Israel and made them heads over the people, in charge of thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. As a general rule, they settled the people's disputes and the difficult cases they brought to Moshe. But every single matter they decided themselves. Then Moshe let his father-in-law leave, and he went off to his own country. Okay, so let's just pause for a second there. We see Jethro giving Moshe some really good advice, because he's basically teaching him, do not take all of this on your own shoulders. Otherwise, you are going to be so exhausted. I mean, this is why rabbis and pastors and people in places of authority and leadership, they have people under them to help them tend to the problems of the people of their flock, because you can't do it all on your own. It's impossible. And this is why, God is teaching Moshe to utilize those that are able men to help him delegate certain issues to other people, so that he's not taking it all on his own shoulders and causing himself too much stress. Okay, we're going to move on to chapter 19. Okay, these are the last two chapters. Okay, so chapter 19 says, let me see here. In the 3rd month after the people of Israel had left the land of Egypt, the same day they came to the Sinai desert. So this is in the 3rd month after the people of Israel had left the land of Egypt. Okay? The same day they came to the Sinai desert. Okay? So they came to the Sinai desert the 3rd month after they left the land of Egypt. After setting out from Rephidim and arriving at the Sinai desert, they set up camp in the desert. There in front of the mountain, Israel set up camp. Because remember what I said, 50 days after Passover, we count down to Shavuot, or Pentecost, also known as Pentecost. Moshe went up to God, and Yahuwah called to him from the mountain. Here is what you are to say to the household of Jacob. To tell the people of Israel, you have seen what I did to the Egyptians and how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now, if you pay careful attention to do what I say and keep my covenant, you will be my own treasure. I'm going to highlight this here. If you keep my covenant, you will be my own treasure from among all the peoples. For all the earth is mine, and you will be a kingdom of priests, Kohanim, a nation set apart. These are the words you are to speak to the people of Israel. Okay, so that was the deal. You keep my covenant, and you will be my holy priests, set apart. Moshe came and summoned the leaders of the people and presented them with all these words which Yahuwah had ordered him. All the people answered as one. And this is what they said. Everything Yahuwah has said, we will do. Moshe reported the words of the people to Yahuwah. Yahuwah said to Moshe, see, I am coming to you in a thick cloud, so that the people will be able to hear when I speak with you and also trust in you forever. Moshe had told Yahuwah what the people had said. So Adonai said to Moshe, go to the people today and tomorrow, separate them for me by having them wash their clothing. You always had to be clean before you could stand before the Lord. And prepare for the 3rd day. For on the 3rd day, Yahuwah will come down on Mount Sinai before the eyes of all the people. You are to set limits for the people all around and say, be careful not to go up on the mountain or even touch its base. Whoever touches the mountain will surely be put to death. No hand is to touch him, for he must be stoned or shot by arrows. Okay, I want to point this out here. Okay? I want you to pay attention to this. Okay? If someone touches the mountain, he's to be put to death. And no hand is to even touch the person who touches the mountain. He's to be stoned or shot by arrows. Neither animal nor human will be allowed to live. When the shofar sounds, they may go up on the mountain. Okay? I'm just going to pause there for a minute. Okay. Why do you think that nobody could touch the mountain that the Lord was descending upon? Why do you think that nobody was even allowed to touch the person who touches the mountain? Why do you think that even animals would die if they touched the mountain that the Lord had descended upon? Why do you think that is? Anybody know? Anybody have a guess as to why you would die if you touched the mountain? Any ideas? Neither an animal nor a human would be allowed to live. Okay? Why do you think that is? So, and we're going to get into this a little bit when we do our tending to the temple biblical health study. And we're going to talk about something having to do with frequencies. Okay? Because if you know anything about science, not all science is bad. I mean, science, for the most part, proves God. So we're not talking about the religion of science, but science in itself proves that everything has a frequency. In fact, even solid matter, what you think is a solid object, has a frequency. It's actually not solid. If you look at anything that is solid under a microscope, it is actually particles that are just vibrating at a very low level, which makes it appear to be in solid form. However, it is still vibrating nonetheless, and is not actually in solid form. So everything in nature, people, plants, things, animals, everything in creation has a vibration. And we know this by studying molecules and the neurons and the protons and the electrons around them. There is frequency around those electrons. Okay? I'm not a scientist, and I wasn't very good in chemistry, but the basics of what I'm about to tell you, I do understand. So because everything has a frequency, wouldn't it make sense that the reason we cannot be in the presence of God, that the reason that we have been separated from God, is because Yahuwah also operates on a certain frequency. It's the highest frequency that there is. He is the Lord of Lords, the King of Kings. He is the creator of all. He spoke and the world was. Everything came into being by his saying so. So he's operating on the highest frequency level that's available. Whereas we, particularly in our fallen state, are operating on a much lower frequency. So if we are to stand in the presence of, in a very strong manifest presence of God, if the children of Israel were to touch this mountain that Yahuwah had descended upon, okay, and his spirit was upon, meaning he had electrified that mountain to the point where if they were to touch it, because it's such a high frequency, such a high voltage, almost like getting struck by lightning, you would die. You would die. So it's not just because they touched the mountain. It's literally because the frequency that's in that mountain, because of the Lord's presence, would kill them because their frequency is so much lower. Does that make sense? And we're going to get into this more when we do our, like I said, when we do our tending to our temple series. We're going to talk more about frequencies and why it's important, how it's biblical, how it ties into our health. Okay? But I want to point this out to you here because the children of Israel literally could not touch this mountain because of the electrical force, the frequency of Yahuwah was so astronomically higher than their being, that they would die. Okay, so because a lot of people read this and they think, oh, if I touch the mountain, I'll die, but they don't understand why. They don't really fully understand what was going to be passed to them. I mean, it's like you putting your finger in a light socket and expecting nothing to happen. No, that voltage is going to go through your body and do some harm and potentially kill you. If electricity can do that, wouldn't Yahuwah, who vibrates even higher than electricity or, a bolt of lightning, he created the bolt of lightning. Wouldn't it make sense that it would be even more dangerous to stand in the presence, the full manifest presence of God, of Yahuwah? Okay, let's continue reading. Okay, so when the shofar sounds, they may go up on the mountain. So that probably meant that at that point, Yahuwah was pulling himself away from the mountain so that they could go up on the mountain. Moshe went down from the mountain to the people and separated the people for God. And they washed their clothing. He said to the people, prepare for the third day and don't approach a woman. In other words, you're not to be with your wife on the third day, leading up to the third day. And you're to wash your clothing. On the morning of the third day, there was thunder, lightning, and a thick cloud. Okay, so let's just pause there for a minute. Remember what I just said about lightning? There was thunder in the presence of God, lightning, and a thick cloud. Again, going back to what I said about frequency. God is, in the presence of God, we're looking at thunder and lightning and a thick cloud. So there's this electrical force that is in the presence of God. And he doesn't want them to die. So he's giving them the proper equation or the proper formula for them to approach him, because he knows that on an electrical current frequency level, they will die unless they do this, this, and this. Okay? On the morning of the third day, there was thunder, lightning, and a thick cloud on the mountain. Then a shofar blast sounded so loudly that all the people in the camp trembled. Okay, so you see here that the presence of the Lord comes with a shofar blast. Okay? The people in the camp trembled. Moshe brought the people out of the camp to meet Yahuwah. They stood near the base of the mountain. Mount Sinai was enveloped in smoke because Yahuwah descended onto it in fire. He descended onto Mount Sinai in fire. Its smoke went up like the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mountain shook violently, and the sound of the shofar grew louder and louder. Moshe spoke, and God answered him with a voice. I'm going to pause there for a second because I want to point out one more thing. Everything that's happening, okay? Everything that's happening with God bringing the people out of slavery and then bringing them to Mount Sinai can also be likened, well, basically, it is likened to the marriage ceremony. He is bringing his people out so that he can marry them in the wilderness, okay? Because he's presenting the Ketubah. In a Jewish wedding or a Hebrew wedding, there is always a Ketubah. And a Ketubah is basically just all of the things that you are promising to do for the other party, and what the other party is promising to do for you. So, for example, in the Ketubah, it would be, I promise to love, honor, cherish, take care of, provide for, tend to, all of these things that you're agreeing to do, stay faithful to in a marriage contract. So the 10 Commandments were the marriage contract. The 10 Commandments were the Ketubah of this wedding. Okay? And he's cleansing them and showing them how to approach him during this wedding ceremony. And then you have the cloud covering, which is the chuppah. And in a Jewish or Hebrew wedding, you have the chuppah, which is the covering. Okay? It's the marriage or the wedding covering under, and then you have the bride and groom underneath this chuppah. So you have the cloud covering, which was the chuppah. You have the 10 Commandments, which was the ketubah, which was the marriage contract. Okay? Because Yahuwah is marrying the children of Israel. Okay, so you have the bride and the groom. You have shofars blowing, so you actually have music at this wedding ceremony. Okay? Not the kind of music you would probably want at your wedding, but it was music nonetheless. And all of this is literally this marriage ceremony. And then you have the Shabbat, which is a sign, which Yahuwah says the Shabbat is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever, so that you may know that I am the Lord your God. So how are the people to know that you are married to Yahuwah? Well, the Shabbat is like the wedding ring. To know that I am taken, I am married to him. Okay? The Shabbat was a sign. Just like your wedding ring is a sign saying, I am taken. Okay? So you have to look at this as a marriage ceremony that's going on at Mount Sinai, and the 10 Commandments as the marriage contract that is being given, the agreement that is being made between both parties. Okay, let's continue. Okay, so the sound of the shofar grew louder and louder. Moshe spoke, and God answered him with a voice. Yahuwah came down onto Mount Sinai on top of the mountain. Then Yahuwah called Moshe to the top of the mountain, and Moshe went up. Yahuwah said to Moshe, go down and warn the people not to force their way through to Adonai, to the Lord, to see him. If they do, many of them will perish. Even the Kohanim, even the priests who are allowed to approach Yahuwah, must keep themselves holy. Otherwise, Yahuwah may break out against them. Moshe said to Yahuwah, the people can't come up to Mount Sinai because you ordered us to set limits around the mountain and separate it. But Yahuwah answered him, go get down. Then come back up, you and Aaron with you. But don't let the priests, the Kohanim, and the people force their way through to come up to Yahuwah, or he will break out against them. So Moshe went down to the people and told them. Okay? So I'm gonna pause there before we read this last chapter. So you see that Yahuwah is making it very clear that there is a way that you are to approach a holy God. You can't just run up to him. There's a certain way that you have to approach this king, this Lord of lords, King of kings, God of gods. He is the Lord of all lords. He's God Almighty, and there is a way that you are to approach him. And he's establishing boundaries. Yahuwah is establishing boundaries and a protocol for how you are to approach him. If you study history back when there were kings and queens ruling and reigning, we even see in the book of Esther, there was a protocol with how you were to approach the king. Remember in the book of Esther, she couldn't just approach him. She had to be summoned. Okay? She had to have permission to go before him. Even more so with a holy God. Okay, that's where this comes from. There was There was a way that you were to approach a holy God, and he was setting boundaries before the children of Israel so that they knew how they were to approach him. All right, so we're going to get into chapter 20 here with the actual 10 commandments, and this is the Ketubah. This was the contractual agreement between Yahuwah and the people of Israel forever. Okay? Okay, so chapter 20 says, "Then God said all these words," okay? So the first commandment was, "I am Yahuwah your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the abode of slavery." So that's the first one. I am Yahuwah your God. I am Yahuwah your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the abode of slavery. Has he not brought us all out of the abode of slavery? Okay, it's very personal for us today because we've all come out of some sort of Egypt, out of some sort of slavery to something in this world, okay? "You are to have no other gods before me. You are not to make for yourselves a carved image or any kind of representation of anything in heaven above, on the earth beneath, or in the water below the shoreline. You are not to bow down to them or serve them." So you see here, you're not to have any sort of image that you're worshiping, okay? And you're actually not supposed to have any kind of representation of anything in heaven above or on earth below. "You are not to bow down to them or serve them, for I, Yahuwah your God, am a jealous God. I do not share my glory, I don't share my wife with anyone." Okay? "Punishing the children for their sins of the parents to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me." Okay, I want you to pay attention to this. God punishes the children for their sins of the parents to the third and fourth generation of those who hate me. So those who do not follow Yahuwah will punish the children of the sins of the parents to the third and fourth generation. But, okay, this is a but here, displaying grace to the 1,000th generation of those who love me and obey my commandments, my mitzvot. Do you see that here? So for those who do not love him and obey him, he will punish the children for the sins of the parents to the third and fourth generation. But he will display grace to the 1,000th generation for those who love him and obey his commandments. Okay? You see that here? So we see this. This is kind of where you have generational curses, where you have the children being punished for the sins of the parents to the third and fourth generation because their parents did not love him and obey his commandments. Okay? Verse 7, "You are not to use lightly the name of Yahuwah your God, because Yahuwah will not leave unpunished someone who uses his name lightly." So this commandment here is the reason why Jews in Judaism do not say the name Yahuwah. They do not use his name because they have made commandments around this commandment so that you couldn't break this commandment. So they will say Hashem, which means the name, and they will not say his name. They will not write his name for the fear of breaking this commandment. However, they're adding to the commandment in order to do that. And that's not what Yahuwah said. He said, don't take my name lightly. Okay? In other words, don't take my reputation lightly. Don't take my character lightly. Do not take me lightly. Don't take my name, my renown lightly. But he's not saying, don't say my name, which is what Judaism has done. Judaism has basically said, you're not allowed to say the name of God. Okay? But that's not what the commandment says. It says, don't use his name lightly. Okay, here's the fourth commandment. Remember the day, the Shabbat, to set it apart for God. You have 6 days to labor and do all your work, but the 7th day is a Shabbat for Yahuwah your God. On it you are not to do any kind of work, not you, not your daughter or your son, not your male or your female slave, not your livestock, and not the foreigner staying within inside your gates to your property. Nobody. For in 6 days Yahuwah made the heaven and earth, the sea and everything in them, but on the 7th day he rested. This is why Yahuwah blessed the day, the Shabbat, and separated it. Who did he separate it for? Did he separate it for the Jews? No, he separated it for himself. For himself. For his renown. For his reputation. For his honor and glory, he separated the Shabbat. Okay? Because remember, it's a sign. Okay? And you'll notice that in these 10 commandments that Yahuwah is giving, okay, that the first half is how you are, is between you and God. Okay? These are the commandments between you and God. And then the second half is between you and your neighbor. Okay? So we see here, honor your father and mother so that you may live long in the land which Yahuwah your God is giving you. So you're to honor your father and your mother. Do not murder. Okay? So this word murder here is not the word kill. So people say, well, we'll see later on in the Bible that God had the children of Israel killing people. Killing and murdering were two different things. So if you're defending yourself against someone who's trying to kill you, that's not murder. If you're, obviously as we see as they're going into the land of Canaan, killing people who were so debaucherous that they were completely abominable to Yahuwah, that was not murder. That was killing. Okay, so that's a little bit different. Do not commit adultery. Do not steal. Do not give false evidence against your neighbor. So do not give a false testimony against your neighbor. Do not cover your neighbor's house. Do not covet your neighbor's wife, his male or female slave, his ox, his donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. So Yahuwah is giving laws that protect you from your neighbor and your neighbor from you. All the people experienced the thunder, the lightning, the sound of the shofar, and the mountain smoking. When the people saw it, they trembled. Standing at a distance, they said to Moshe, "You speak with us, and we will listen. But don't let God speak with us, or we will die." Moshe answered the people, "Don't be afraid, because God has come only to test you and make you fear him, so that you won't commit sins." Okay? So the people stood at a distance, but Moshe approached the thick darkness where God was. Yahuwah said to Moshe, "Here is what you are to say to the people of Israel. You yourselves have seen that I spoke with you from heaven. You are not to make with me gods of silver, nor are you to make gods of silver for yourselves. For me, you need to take only an altar of earth. On it you will sacrifice your burnt offerings, peace offerings, sheep, goats, and cattle. In every place where I cause my name to be mentioned, I will come to you and bless you." Okay, so this is how you are to worship me. "If you do make me an altar of stone, you are not to build it of cut stones. For if you use a tool on it, you profane it. So you see here, God didn't want you using tools on the altar to cut stones. Obviously, this is what was done in Egypt because their stones were cut with some sort of tool. So Yahuwah wanted them to use just natural stones that were not cut. Likewise, you are not to use steps to go up to my altar so that you won't be indecently uncovered. So obviously, people back then wore tunics, okay? So they didn't have underwear. They had tunics, and if they did have underwear, it was, very loosely wrapped, I'm sure. But they had tunics, and so it was like wearing a skirt or a dress. So he said, don't use steps to go up to the altar so that you won't be indecently uncovered. God was very proper, okay? And he was very conservative. He didn't want you showing all your stuff, and he certainly didn't want you to be indecently uncovered. This was a big deal to God. Obviously, it was a big deal after what happened. I mean, as you can see, what happened with Noah and his son Ham and his grandson Canaan, and how he cursed Canaan for indecently uncovering his grandfather. It's a big deal. God wants you to be covered up. Okay? He's all about modesty. Okay? Obviously, we in society today, we're not as covered up as we probably should be. And it's a lot harder if you live in a hot climate, but clearly God wants you to be somewhat decent in the way that you dress and modest and not uncovering parts of your body that should not be shown to others. And he was even talking about men. He wasn't even talking about women in this particular scenario, because I believe that the men were the ones who were going to be going up on the altar making the sacrifices for the household, so he didn't even want the men to be improperly exposed. Okay? So that is the end of chapter 20. Okay? That is the end of chapter 20, guys. I hope you got something out of this today. We'll probably do our Jubilee study. I think it's going to be the book of Jubilees. And then after that, we'll also work in the Tending to Your Temple series that I plan on doing. It's very important that we tend to our temple and practice biblical health. But I think it's more proper for us to do the book of Jubilees right now, because we're in that part of the Bible where it's taking place. So it will make more sense if we can see the book of Jubilees during this time, where we can kind of see it paralleled a little bit. So I'm thinking that's what we're going to do. Amen. Thank you. I'm so glad you guys were able to make it, even though it's on a Tuesday. It's been very hard. Pray for this page, because Facebook has blocked me from being able to, I can't do any advertising. And if you have a Facebook page that's not already built up to where you want it, you have to advertise on Facebook. Otherwise, they don't show any of your stuff to hardly anybody. So you have to advertise to get your stuff seen. I'm not allowed to advertise on Facebook anymore. I cannot pay for advertisements anymore on Facebook. So I'm praying that Lighthouse comes out soon, because it's going to be a much, much better platform where there's no censoring. It's, created by believers, for believers and probably non-believers as well, but there's no censoring. It's going to be a great platform. And until then, I can't build this page because I don't know what to do. I've done everything I could. Facebook literally went back an entire year to 2 posts that were fact-checked a year ago. They were fact-checked a year ago. Facebook penalized the page for that reason. And I wasn't even able to create events. And I actually went back and deleted both of those posts. I'm allowed to create events now, but I can't do any advertising. So hardly any of the posts are going to be seen, and the videos, aren't going to hardly be seen by anybody. So, I'm just going to put it in God's hands and pray for Lighthouse to come out. And, all in God's time, there's nothing I can do. So, and I can't create a whole new page. That would cost too much money, and it would take too much more time. So, thank you for being here today on a Tuesday. So glad you're able to make it and be here with me. And hopefully we'll be able to continue our study this Shabbat. And God's willing, we will start our Book of Jubilees study as well. The Book of Jubilees should be, it's an extra biblical text. Was once in the canon, was in the Apocrypha writings. The Book of Jubilees, there is nothing about this book that leads me to believe that it should not be taught. We had done a study, partial study on the Book of Jasher, which I thought was great. However, there's some parts in the Book of Jasher where it's a little bit questionable, only because it doesn't line up with what's in the Bible. There's some facts in there, like having to do with the 10 plagues that don't really add up, and it made me question if we should be teaching the Book of Jasher. There's a lot of people who still teach the Book of Jasher, but the Book of Jubilees has a lot more reliability. It was in the canon. It was in the Dead Sea Scrolls. I believe the Book of Jubilees was in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Let me confirm that before I say it. And I believe the Book of Jubilees was meant for us to be reading at this time. Let me see if it was in the Dead Sea Scrolls. In the Dead Sea Scrolls. So let's see here. Yeah, so approximately 15 copies of the Book of Jubilees were found among the Dead Sea Scrolls. Okay? As was the Book of Enoch as well. So, and it used to be in our canon, the Book of Jubilees was. So we're going to study the Book of Jubilees, and we might do that this Shabbat. Maybe this Shabbat we'll do the Book of Jubilees, and then we'll do the Book of Jubilees again on Tuesday, and then we'll get synced up with having the Book of Jubilees on Tuesday. Maybe, because I think it's time to start doing that one because of the way that it lines up with our Bible reading. So we can kind of see them side by side. So maybe that's what we'll do. We'll do the Book of Jubilees this Shabbat and on next Tuesday. And maybe we'll get it lined up from there. That's my plan. God's willing. God's willing. But God bless you. Again, if anyone is interested in the 10 Commandments charm, it's the 10 Commandments written in Hebrew. I don't know if you can see it, but it's the 10 Commandments written in Hebrew. It's a silver alloy. It's not sterling silver. Otherwise, it would cost a lot more. But it's $20, and that includes the shipping. So it's gonna take a few weeks for me to get it to you because I have to get all the orders in at once, and then I'll place a large order. And then they'll all be shipped out at the same time. I don't want to do it like, sporadically. But if you're interested, please send me a private message and I'll send you the link for payment. And I'll just need your address so that I can mail it out to you once we get all of the orders in. And, you can enjoy a little charm. I like to wear these. I have a couple of other ones. I'll be presenting later on, but I thought it was fitting since we were doing the 10 Commandments today. But these are the 10 Commandments in Hebrew. All right, guys, God bless you. May the Lord bless you, keep you. May he make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May he lift up his countenance upon you and give you his shalom. In the name of the Prince of Shalom, Yahusha. Have a wonderful rest of the Tuesday, and I hope to see you this Shabbat. And maybe we'll start our Book of Jubilees reading. Amen? See you later.